First on our agenda is Flag RV with some discussions about site plan review.
Yep, we got some plans right here, we'll show it to you, so you can take a look.
Yeah.
This one was revised 2008.
Yeah.
So all we've done since then is just enlarge the service building, as you guys know, right here, we just put it to here, and we've changed the fire lane from here to around here. And it's to scale, as you can see.
And you put in all these things that are shown on this?
Yeah,
everything's
yeah.
there.
Pavements removed, replaced with gravel, all this has all been, we put the retention pond in.
Yeah, everything, DCR, conservation,
When we
everything.
put this in, when we put the service building, we did the right drainage, what's his name came down, and,
Yeah, from conservation, I can't remember.
so she did an excellent job, he said you went above and beyond,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, now this actually goes around here too, so it's all.
Yes, we didn't have a fire, they can go around here with fire truck, I mean, anything's
So-
better than before,
So the real plan was edited last time, but you just drew this in?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Right,
That's
like
like
you
the
guys
last
said,
thing.
we want to know what the building
We have a
is,
site
we
plan.
want to show you what,
Pencil in, see if it would
there's
work.
nothing else has been done, I mean, it's just,
And what was the occasion for site plan review on the way?
We didn't do site plan review in a way.
Oh, it was just a site plan? You were doing some work?
Yeah.
Yeah, conservation.
conservation,
DCR.
yeah, they're always
Oh.
on vacation. You gotta-
Right, because you have.
Yeah, the other property owners there.
Yeah, you got,
Covers it all.
So you really only kind of use half your property? I mean,
well, we use just like park trailers, we use it, but we.
No, I mean,
It's not like we,
from here back,
oh yeah, all this here, yeah, this is,
This is subdivision.
This is subdivision.
this is all separate, yeah.
Oh, what's
So
that
he
dash
doesn't, he
line?
doesn't use this.
Nothing gets used here, no. This is
Right,
all-
okay.
So what is that double dash mean? Dash,
The big dashes.
little two dots, dash.
Phantom. Oh,
What does this mean?
it was that?
Oh,
Dash.
drainage area delineation. Delineations.
Oh, that all drains into,
So that. all
And actually, we
drains
put,
together.
yeah, and we made it better, we
Yeah.
put in a whole drainage system, from putting the garage in, we had put in,
It's piped it?
Yep.
down, and, yeah, we did it all,
all.
we even did this over too, the retention, cleaned it all up.
Two,
yeah.
Brought us that,
Yeah,
it's-
it's revised and made it better to handle all the extra drainage that's coming into it now.
So far, I mean, basically all we did was make things better. We didn't do anything, the
Yeah,
building
no,
looks better, everything.
And I don't think that the
We
issue
spent a lot of
was-
money to make everything better.
Right.
You know, right.
I think it's all been an improvement, so that has
Yeah.
never been a question. It's not, that's not the issue, it's just more that the town needs to coordinate its activities and let you know what needs to be done, because you guys, I kind of felt bad, because the buildings, you went to the building inspector and asked him point blank.
Yeah, when we were up,
He
he
was
gave
brand
me a
new,
permit,
so-
we built it, and it was like nothing.
Right.
and this is the kind of thing we're looking, I mean, that's good, that's.
Right. What we probably want to see is just have, is it possible to have Andrysik just do an update of this? I mean, and just have them show, just
Yeah,
what
we
you
said,
said.
if you tell me
Well, you-
everything's, I'll have him do it.
Show us
If you
the
say flag's all set, that's all I need to, I'm not gonna have him do it, then you come back.
Well, no,
another
that's-
meeting, be my fourth meeting to say, okay, you're all set.
Who
If
did-
Andrysik says, okay, this is good, you guys go, okay, that's fine.
Who did all the drainage calculations and work and engineering?
Doug Andrysik did.
Oh, he did it, well,
He did that with this, with
He's been,
CMRC.
we've spent 50,000 on this, I mean, just
Oh.
through years of, you know.
Yep.
so he knows what's going on, if you ask him to
We
update,
spent a
he's
lot of
familiar,
money,
it's
you know.
easy.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
I mean, to do another whole site.
No, just,
Yeah, no,
this is,
well,
I mean,
I think
grow
you
on
got,
trees, you
but
know.
you've got.
Looks like we got a lot of money, but there's a lot of overhead over there, you know, so.
But, so you have the data all in there, so you just need to
Yeah,
update
everything
this
is-
plan. Okay. Add the stuff that's been changed, the revised basin, the new drainage.
actually, the new fire lane would be nice, and then you could give it to the fire
Oh,
department.
yeah, he's gonna, because the fire lane now would go through the building,
Right.
so that, we know that
So
doesn't.
I think that they like those updates.
So we have Doug just, you know, obviously, it's
Well,
still a
Doug-
fire
Doug-
lane,
Doug-
we just made this area smaller here.
Right.
And and then obviously the building, so if we, say, talk whatever, put the building in here, and, I mean, nothing else is, oh, we didn't update this, we just cleaned it up, we made the drain.
Yeah, so he wouldn't change the drawing over there.
Before we had a lot of water runoff from the
Yeah.
hill at Wachusett Country Club, all the water comes right on our property.
Nice.
And we gotta, yeah, I mean, you know, obviously, we're the ones that gotta deal with it, but it comes across and creates ice. And we have, a drainage here now that will go right to the base, I mean, to the retention pond.
And how much lower is that wetland than
And the conservation is
than
happy,
you?
the guy was very happy with that, so.
This wetland over here,
He's
Yeah.
at 508, this is the wetland here.
there's like a 6-foot or 7-foot berm that says holding it back.
Okay, because
So
I mean, I just wondering if
that
the
berm wasn't
drainage
there,
is almost the same level as the water, the wetland, it doesn't have really any place to go.
Yeah, no, it's gotta go through a berm and then get down into that.
And then it goes downhill into this drainage pond a little bit more.
Correct, yeah,
So
so,
doesn't somebody go this way? Is that?
Yeah,
is that
hill,
just-
yeah.
there's a, Henry Zodley built there's a type of pipe up there.
yeah, we're right here, the rock swale that's coming out right up there off of the.
Yeah, Roddy did that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that, but I just want to clarify that this wouldn't be your last meeting for site plan review. The site plan review would be an actual site plan review.
Yeah, so you have to come
Probably
back,
taking a month or so.
there's a meeting
There's a
that,
public hearing, there's a process for site plan review.
No, we're not
Section
gonna-
3.
I'm gonna get a lawyer.
Well,
She already said, I saw her. No.
who's she?
I ain't
I
going
did,
for it.
I did.
She said on video.
I did make the comment.
Bentley made a mistake, gave us a
Made a
permit,
mistake.
you're not putting us through this. I'm not paying a lot more money for this. This is what's gonna happen. You're gonna approve it tonight, or I'm getting a lawyer. So, lawyer's coming, you're gonna approve it. And I hate to be like this,
Well,
been very civil, for
I-
the third meeting, and I know you, and you're the one. These four, the first meeting went fine. You came in and you caused this.
I checked it.
Yeah, no, admit it.
I,
First meeting, everybody said yes. Then you came in and you caused it. Video. Okay, we'll put it on video. Do you want to get a lawyer and deal with this?
No.
Or do you just want to prove it? We're a business trying to make money, deal with people. And you're the one. Not her, not him or him. How come the first meeting went fine?
I wasn't there.
There you go.
Well, that's,
You're the common denominator.
that could be,
All these other people are fine.
that's, what can I say? I can't, I'm
But
not.
But four again, isn't it a vote?
It
Is
is.
this a vote? How come you four voted yes? Then he came in, what's he, the boss? Why even have four?
No, the reason, Mike, is in the,
What's the reason?
in the regulations.
Yeah, regulations, and they gave me a permit.
And then that might be the way to go. But you may be able to get.
I'm not spending thousands and thousands
And
of dollars
okay,
for site plan review. Do you realize how much money this is gonna cost?
Okay, but we have a process that we're
So
supposed to
then-
follow. And I think you're in the right direction, you're there.
I'm not doing
But
it.
I don't,
I'm not doing it.
I know, I sympathize with you.
No, he's got something against Flag RV.
No,
This
he
man
does
here.
not, he does not. He does not.
If he doesn't, then why is he doing
Well,
this?
we want
Because
our
all I'm
business to
doing
be
is-
successful.
we're trying to, we've got a list of businesses that.
What is the problem with the building we put up?
Nothing at all. Have I ever said there's a problem with the building, that it's been an improvement? It's all been good, and that's what I just said a little while
Do you
ago.
realize how much site plan review's gonna cost?
I do?
Yeah. Are you paying?
No,
Okay.
and
That
that's,
answers the question. You want us to do a full site plan review?
my job, I was elected.
Everybody signed off on it. We've
I was
done everything
elected
perfect.
to enforce the zoning bylaws that were voted on in town meeting.
So you're the boss?
No, I
I
asked the
We
question.
all were elected for that, we
Yeah,
said,
I'm
we
just
all
wondering.
have that responsibility.
Yeah,
Because I
I wanna
empathize
talk
with
to
you.
her. She
No,
seems like
because
she makes sense.
Well, because I empathize with you, I made
Right.
that comment because things weren't done.
Correct. Bentley
It
screwed
should-
up, I guess.
he-
I don't know.
he messed
We don't
up.
build buildings
He messed
every
up.
day. He gave you a
That's our-
permit,
right.
he messed up.
Yeah,
You hear that?
it's our
You're gonna put us
job.
through this.
Well, we also had suggested that you could perhaps go to the zoning board and kind of skirt around this issue for the last time as well. And it was really for
We're not
your,
gonna skirt around.
it was
We did
for
everything by the book.
you, so that
All I'm gonna do is,
down the road,
hand
they
raise
would
it,
have it.
draw in what what we have now, okay? Gonna draw in a new fire lane, and why wouldn't that
Yeah,
pass? I don't get it, I mean, what is the big deal?
For it to pass, there needs to be the process. And the process is just to have a hearing. If you're gonna have Andrew Isaac do the plan, and you can talk to Doug about it, have him explain from your side that by drawing up the plan, that's the cost, that's the big thing. The board can waive the engineering review, because we've done that in
and
the
we can waive
past.
fees.
We can waive all sorts of things, but we need to get a submittal as a site plan review. Just talk with Doug before you get the attorney, because it'll probably save you money talking to Doug and getting it squared away.
How much would it cost to have that revised?
That's Doug.
I don't know.
I mean, if he's
But
familiar
we've
with
done
it,
it,
he's up to
I'm
speed.
done, we've done
I
it.
can't
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
how many things were.
How many thousands of dollars?
Before you get an attorney cost involved, just talk to Doug.
Yeah, and we're not an
And it's not-
unempathetic board, we waive fees all the time for people, we don't wanna cost you thousands either, that's not the case either.
So you do all this, come back another thing, another one, how many meetings?
And
I mean, how many meetings?
Well, if the question.
How come in the first meeting, they all said, okay? Answer that one. I'm asking,
Because
answer
what
that.
happened then-
Answer it.
I wasn't.
I was the chair then.
I wasn't.
Oh, I had four that said yes.
Yes to what?
What did?
No, we
To the
said,
plan.
Because Mark
You're
was here,
hired.
I was here, he was not here.
There was two,
Chris.
Anthony.
Yeah,
Chris
yeah.
was
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
no, just.
so they all said yes, then I gotta come back. I don't get it, it doesn't make any sense. How's it make sense?
We didn't know what to do with the, sort of the problem of what
What's the
Bentley
problem?
said.
Well,
Where
Where's
Bentley
Bentley? He's the man who gave you a permit.
Right, he gave you the permit, he said
Yeah.
you didn't need to do site plan review.
There you go, you just said it, did you hear that? You didn't need to do site plan review. Right?
And that's why you didn't do it. That's why you
So
didn't.
why am I gonna do one now?
Well, then fine, don't do it.
well, the.
He's saying I have to.
No, the
If
reason.
you wanna do it, you have to. If you don't wanna do it, don't.
Or any financing on that, they're gonna say this.
Are you saying I need to do one or don't?
According to the zoning, you're required to do it.
See, you just said I needed to do one.
But if
I'm
we
trying to see, do I need to do one?
But if you can get Bentley, Bentley Herget is the zoning enforcement officer. We could say you need to jump around on one leg. If he says you don't have to do anything at all, and puts it on paper, then you walk away.
But that doesn't make sense, because he has our occupancy permit, will not release it until you guys give the okay.
Because that's his decision. Because we asked him, we said that.
No, I understand the rules, but if he's saying Bentley can enforce it and just make it go away and say he can do it,
But I
Who's
know
the
that-
boss?
then why can't he just give it the
Yeah,
permit and say?
Is Bentley the boss?
Bentley is the enforcement officer, yes.
Okay.
That's the man I need to talk to.
So, and that's one, but the thing is,
I'm not trying to give you guys a hard time.
Well,
I mean, it is.
I understand you defending it, and I'm not taking it personally.
He said I
I
didn't need to
asked-
see you guys, I didn't, everything's fine.
Right, and I.
Now all of a sudden I gotta do this and everything's gotta come up.
Well, the thing that came up
And,
was,
the first meeting, they all said, okay, you showed up, nothing against you,
That's-
and you said you gotta do something.
well, and
So,
if you want to.
it all, I mean, you went through all the records of what's been said, none of it makes sense.
The reason we said, the reason I said,
Sure,
I thought
you
you needed
said
to come in was because at the hearing, in our minutes, it said that you were replacing the building in kind, the same size. As long as, in our zoning, it says, as long as you don't increase it by 25%, you're not.
Yeah, but that's something
You
that
didn't cause a problem.
Bentley didn't
Just
do
sign
it.
off on a thing, or I'm gonna get a lawyer. I mean, this is.
Well, then go to Bentley.
We're going to Bentley
This has
tomorrow.
got to be easier.
Yes, he can, if
We
he
made
can
West
override it.
Boylston nice.
He is the
Then
zoning.
he's-
Get rid of it all.
You
I
can't
just don't like how he's
it's-
telling us that you guys need to approve.
Bentley's,
Or he
Bentley's
can
the
do
one
it.
who's putting everybody in.
Right.
Why isn't he here?
He's paid for his hourly during
He
the
gets
day.
paid, we're volunteers.
No, I know. I
You
mean,
should get paid for
We gotta go.
I haven't seen it all yet.
No, I know he doesn't should have paid. I know.
But
I'm not trying to get
I-
anybody, it's just frustrating
I
at my
think-
point where
Yeah.
We understand that it's.
he says you're all set, this, and then we're coming to 3 meetings, 4 meetings, 5 meetings, whatever it's gonna be. I mean, why? It makes no sense.
Alright, so tomorrow we'll talk to Bentley and go from there, because like I said, he's saying he
Bentley's
has the
gonna say,
permit, the occupancy is sitting there ready.
Now, everybody passes
until
the
you
buck.
guys sign off.
If he wants us to
He's
approve
telling
the
us
site
that
plan
we're here.
review, we just need the site plan review.
I think the hard part is that
I mean, that's, if that's what he wants us to do.
a decision that
Right.
we're questioning it, and he's saying, okay, well, no, I was wrong, or whatever it was, I didn't have all the information. Now he's saying, well, you need it now, and it puts you
I
guys.
gave him all
in a
that
bad
information.
spot.
We gave him the blueprints, gave him everything. It's right there. You
I
can
know.
drive there in about 13 seconds. Go look.
Yeah, I
and see
see
what.
yeah, and so
So-
that's, it's kind of, the town is in a difficult situation. And that's what, I think Bentley can either sign off, or then, like you said, you gotta.
So you guys aren't strong holding Bentley like, hey, I'm just wondering.
No, we just have a list of, I think we had
We have a list of
9
like,
or
yeah,
11.
10 properties or
Project-
so that
projects.
needed.
It's not just flag, there's a whole bunch of.
Oh, yeah. Didn't know the protocol is.
Unfinished projects
Yeah.
or something like that.
So that was the situation, and I think, like I said, just talk, you can talk to Bentley as well, but check with, Doug and Bryce
Okay, yes,
has done this before, see what he has to say. And then going into Bentley, if Bentley says, well, you gotta go back to the planning board, at least you know from Doug and Bryce that he said it's only gonna cost you $1,000 for him to do this, and whatever the fees from the town would be, and,
My question, this is my question.
yeah.
Okay. So you say we have Doug do it all, new building, whatever he charges. We come in here and we go, guys, this is it. What are you gonna say? That's my question. Because obviously I gotta hire him, he's gotta pay him, I gotta hook
Well,
it,
well,
and you're gonna come in and
what's
say,
the next
oh,
step?
Mike, you didn't mark
That's,
here.
Well, that's.
You know, I mean,
right, so I
so
think.
what I'm trying to say is, I don't wanna go do that, you guys are gonna say, well, that's not what we want.
Well, yes, and so that's what I tried to explain, and then you started on with the lawyer thing. So to finish up, you would.
Well, that's my only other option.
I know, but just listen through the whole process here, and it can work, and you're in no rush to get the occupancy permit, I assume. I mean, if it takes a month.
Well, we have stuff we want to do, we want to build the steps up inside, we got storage above our.
Right, but if
We
you're
can't do
asking
that
for something.
without occupancy permit, we got.
But the
We
building
need
inspector
to,
gives you
get
that
the
right.
occupancy done, so then we can move on and finish any other projects we have outside the final paving and everything else. We have to get that done. We need to get the occupancy. We're in there, we can work and we can do things on a temporary, but month to month, getting a temporary is a real pain. There's no reason that we shouldn't have our occupancy. We met all the town bylaws that were all beside the site plan, all the building codes, plumbing codes, electrical codes, we are complete. There's no reason we shouldn't have our occupancy. It's not our fault that he screwed up.
Yes, and I think that if that's the issue,
Right, that's
he
the
could
issue.
just,
That's
he could
correct,
contact
it's not
us.
your fault, right, it's correct.
We didn't screw it up. We did everything we were told. We went to, I've done plenty of building in the town of Holden, and it's nothing like this. I hate to say it, but this town is the most screwed up system that goes on, and that's not your fault.
Yeah.
But none of the departments talk to each other, and that's a problem. Because now we're facing the problem, we shouldn't have to fight every week, month to
And I think, I totally agree with you there, and I think the way we could work something out is to have the planning board could recommend that he issue a temporary occupancy permit for 6 months.
Right, well, we have that right now, so
Oh,
it's,
so that-
we're on a
They're
month-to-month.
temporary.
I just want to
They're
end it,
temporary.
we want,
You just want
Oh,
to.
yeah, but I guess the process, the question you should have is the process, and that's all in section 3.6 of the zoning review. It's written down, so I'm not making it up.
no, we understand, you screwed up.
So he knows it.
Let's take advantage of the screw up, is what I'm trying to tell you.
But we can't.
I mean,
Our process.
I can.
You can.
Legally, I know I can. I've already
Right,
figured
and
it
that's
out.
why
And I don't want to do that.
Right.
Make
Right,
it
but you
simple.
would have
Just
to
say,
go
Mike,
in
yes,
for-
this looks
for
good.
that.
Have you,
Yes.
no, but just say, Mike, this looks good. Have your engineer do that, and I'll pay him. If you can tell me after he does that, everything's okay. I don't want to come here and you go,
Well, I would think so.
Mike, you're not doing it right. You know what I'm saying? I don't want
All
3
we're
more
asking-
meetings to figure out that.
But all we're asking is that section that got changed, that you drew in with your
Yep.
pencil.
Right. If I had done,
Is that to reflect reality?
Yep.
And that's the only thing that should be changed. If they do that, then the site plan review would be approved.
that's my question.
Well, the
Well,
same-
So then the site plan would be approved, but to get an approved site plan, you need to do the process of the site plan review, which usually takes 2 months. That's, like you sat through a couple of the ones when you were here. Someone puts in the application, we schedule a public hearing because we have to advertise. No, just listen till you
Yeah,
get
listen.
It's inconsequential for
So
what you
you
do.
wait you're gonna advertise it to the neighbors come in and they can make a comment, but think you're
That's
better
pretty good, it doesn't
there.
happen.
And then you hold a public hearing, we close the public hearing, we issue a decision, and then that decision is your approval, your site plan review approval.
Would this be considered, if he did move forward with that, would it be an amended site plan?
He doesn't, no, because that was a
Because
site
that was
plan for the,
done.
it's just labeled site plan,
So
that's
just
the
be site plan.
Conservation Commission.
Yeah, well, and then I would think that we wouldn't want to have
Well, the fees, I don't think we need to.
The fact that it's built
a, no,
and it's showing that it works or not, do we have to do as much engineering review as?
No.
no.
No, it's like we
I
did
said we
with,
don't do any.
Pinecroft.
Yeah,
We
We
wouldn't
just
do
look
any.
at it generally and say, okay, these cars are backing up into the
yeah, which
road,
makes
we
sense.
don't want that to
Yeah,
happen. You
right,
don't, you don't have that situation. But it's just general safety issues that we would look at the public hearing would be that. And it should last till you get your decision, 2 months.
Well, in writing, it's in writing. You would know at the
But
beginning.
I think you know going in right now that you're not gonna get, even from me, you're not gonna get a pushback of, we wanna have drainage calculations, we want a traffic study, we want
That's
all
what
the
I'm
different
afraid
things. Right.
If I come in
Well,
here,
I'll
everybody's
give you my
gonna,
word, but you're not-
oh, and they went through all
No,
that.
I
and
agree, yeah,
No.
we could go.
I mean, the
Everybody's
other,
fighting us for every inch that we're trying to.
We can, we can talk about it in our minutes, we can say we discussed the preparation of the site plan review, and it's to show what's out there now with a current stamp on it, and.
the current set of signatures, that we need a new drawing.
well,
If we were gonna
it's a
review
new-
and approve, we need a new, something to sign.
Yeah, it's a new plan,
Yeah,
it's a new plan with a planning board signature block on it,
just a space to
it's
sign.
one page, just like that.
Minus,
And then we waive the drainage calculations, waive the traffic, waive the, I mean, we can work out the applicate, what do we have for an application fee? I mean, what is it now?
$800.
$900, and then $4,500 professional.
And so we can waive the professional review.
Yeah, we won't get the review, so that
Okay.
4,500 to go away. We can waive, we gotta pay Melanie, so we have to have something in there.
Yeah, that's something
I
Melanie.
mean,
Yeah, hey, Bob, she's sitting there.
But, so basically, that's kind of.
We're right under the table.
Put up with all this.
Probably divide it in half or something.
Yeah,
Or something, I mean, but that can do, doesn't have to stay its full value, you know?
Right. And so we can set that, and we would do that when you apply, but, I mean, generally, we've talked about it here. I don't think we, if we change, Rajesh will be on the board, but he won't have any problem with it.
And then we could even, I don't think you'd have to bring your engineer, you don't have to have him spend an hour here.
Right.
You can just come in with the drawing and, you know. It's mainly the rules say that you're supposed to have the public hearing so that other people can come in.
Right, so I know what it is, I'm just worried, I come in like you guys just said, and remember, you all just said waive and everything's good. I come in here and you say, well, Mike, you didn't do that, that's the only thing I hope you understand.
No, it's
That's all.
minutes.
Ask him if there's anything that he thinks would come up. I mean, if he knows of something that's a problem,
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be,
And if he has questions, have him email the planning board. If there's any, I mean, the planning board email, it goes out to all of us. So usually I'm the one that replies. The chair
So I'll have Doug draw that building in here, show it to code or
well, then
design.
bring it up, like if the drainage
Right, the drainage,
was
fire
there,
line,
but changed,
everything.
update that, just to show where it is, because,
Yep.
I mean,
what it is and where it is.
to have the drawing on file later, it'd just be nice so that if anybody has questions about the property,
Yeah.
It's there.
it's
Right,
there.
right.
And he could actually have a site plan and.
And you're all telling me, it's right in the God, that if I come in with
No, I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
all we're trying to do is put the.
You're gonna raise it right in the God.
Oh,
I know it's at the NFL.
Make sure we have that.
No, no, all right, I got you all in back. All right, good. All right, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna have Doug handle that. Let's do
And
it.
just, I mean, he'll know what to draw on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Draw little characters or something.
Right, Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
Where's
And
Walt?
if he has questions, just, he knows me, he can call.
Yeah, yeah.
And he can email to whatever's needed.
This was done a week,
Oh, wait, yeah.
so there's no.
You do it next year, wait for 10 years.
Is that what it is?
No,
No, it's actually a 3-year time frame, but you've already got the work done. So it's not as though, you get the approval on the plan, and if you don't start work within a year and complete it within 3 years, then it can be null and void if you don't come in and ask for.
but you're already done. As soon as you get the approval, you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I say label it as an as-built and
That's true, have him do that, because then he doesn't have to do a second
Then you
drawing.
only do one drawing.
Site plan and as-built.
So yeah, just save you $250.
Right. Because usually they do the plan in the beginning, and then as you're working, you run into problems and it changes a little
Right,
bit.
things change, yeah.
So they have an as-built, which is a little bit different than the original, but this is both, so just have to label it as both, and it'll be done.
Okay.
Since it's done, I mean, he knows what happened
Yeah.
while you were doing it.
And I don't expect that we'll have any changes. You said you did paving, is that?
Just the top.
No, it was all right, we
You
just
just
got
researched.
a talk to it.
The top coat, yeah, the
Oh,
line
just,
is
yeah,
there.
just, that's all right, yeah.
Did you want to change some
Can I
of the
talk
parking
to it
spaces?
now or no? Before it snows?
Because if you wanted to change parking spaces,
It's
now's
all
the time to
done.
do it.
It's a pavement, so it snows.
You're not enlarging it.
It's not enlarging anything, it's just.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if you want to do that sort of parking space changes, all that kind of stuff, do it
I'm not
now.
wasting
Let's start
spring.
today.
No, but just get it now, and then don't worry about it, do it whenever you want to do it,
Okay.
you know?
And that's the other.
Because you were talking about before,
Yeah.
and changing around your parking spaces on the, whatever the other piece of property.
Yeah, you said you can do 15 spaces.
Well, if you do 15 spaces, it asks for site plan review, but you're doing it.
You're doing the site plan.
So if you're doing the site plan review, change it however you want it, now, and then you
Put
don't
it
come
on this
back.
drawing, get it approved, and then.
Yeah, and then whenever you want to do it, you do it, you know? Put 1,000 spaces on there and
If
you'll
you
never.
have like, when you drive in, you go straight down, it's not parking spaces, can you pave that? I'm not putting more pavement, just going over the top of
If you're not
Repairing
annexing
anything.
your impervious area, then you can
it.
do.
You can pave whatever you want.
Double say.
Okay,
It's
all right, I just wanna make sure.
You're allowed to repave, blacktop, repair, you know,
Oh, there's no
whatever's
limit.
approved.
Right, and then his note on the plan is to resurface or top coat the existing paved area. And then that'll be that. So
Okay.
that should be, the other thing that.
And that'll show the area, and you can do it as many
There was
times as you want.
something that said you only were allowed a certain number of vehicles, and I don't know where that
I
is.
don't know where that came from.
Take off.
Find out where it is, and if you put on the site plan that you can have 150 in there and 50.
Right, this is the time to do all those
Put it
little
on the site
things.
plan, so you then get it. Because I think what might have happened is you went to the selectmen and there was some, they approved of some site plan that, I don't know where it is. But no one has record of it, or not. I don't know where the record is.
Right.
But if this one becomes a site plan review, then you go to.
This is
We gotta talk to Doug.
Okay.
Doug
But I
will-
mean, and tell him what little changes you want, he'll know that.
I'm sorry to get excited. I get excited once in a while.
I mean, we're just getting our paperwork in order, that's all.
Well, you know,
Hey, it's a-
that was up beforehand, dog shit on the floor and everything.
Nice.
That's not bad.
Yes.
You know, it was up all night.
Don't put that aside.
We want to go.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, totally.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, we'll get that done and we'll be back.
Have a good night. You too.
Thank you.
Most exciting meeting I've had so far.
I'll say,
This is awesome.
which might
You were here for these.
This board is awesome.
One, that's nice,
That's
it's
why.
Mike and Mike, but I don't know which one, I think one's a flag, one on the right gets a flag, I think the other one is not, but I don't know.
So the loud one was the flag.
You could put it that way.
No, I just want his name, which one he was.
I expect him to sign
Yeah,
it.
but they're both mics.
You're both Mike.
But they, oh, well, if it's not flag, it's the other one. The guy who's got experience, the calmer one, was one that is not a flag.
Okay, I'll see what he wrote afterwards. That's why I checked.
Good job, man, good job.
They want it done, we want it done.
I tried to stay calm, so.
Yep.
I wanted to get to the table.
I want to stay now.
It's me too. You what? All right, 7:15, we're a little late. Warrant articles for the October town meeting. We drafted something, and I think it was in our last agenda package, right? We didn't have any questions, we actually put the advertisement in.
Yes, and I got the first paper today, so it's in
So
there.
it's been,
Does it go on the item?
Nope, Telegram.
Telegram.
It's in there today, and I'll get next Wednesday's paper as well, because I think eventually they have to go somewhere, they have to have the.
yeah, this is the draft.
No, is that what you're looking for?
No, we actually drafted, we wrote something,
Telegram.
so. That's all right, so I think it's in, it's been in the paper, so that's good. We put it in as a single advertisement. We're still waiting for the backup from the building inspector on the type of trucks that, once we lower it to 12,000, and 2 axles, that he's gonna give us some information on what that limits. So hopefully we'll get that. And when is the public hearing scheduled for it?
October 11th.
October 11th, right? because town meeting is on the 21st, is it, or
16.
16th? So 11 is the public hearing. And then town meeting, which we're gonna have to do a presentation at the town meeting.
I didn't do well.
You didn't do well?
I did well in my most recent one, I didn't do well in my first one.
Well, you were a rookie. That's why we're gonna send Paul in there.
Okay,
And that's on 10/16. Alright. So we have that. We got two warrant
And-
articles.
yeah, the one is the truck, and the other one is the signs.
The sign bylaw, yes.
What is the truck, noise?
The truck, no, the truck is 12,000.
No, but what's the bylaw that we're changing?
Truck thingy.
There was it's within the parking, no commercial
Oh,
parking.
off-street parking section of zoning bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the
Off-street parking. And then the sign.
Yes. All right. And I think we're ready, we posted, we're good to go, public hearings ready. So the next item on the agenda is petition for a home occupation at 22 Lee Street. It's a petition to the ZBA for a special permit under home occupations. So that's a section in the bylaws that it seems pretty clear as to what is needed and how it all happens. So do we want to have a discussion on that?
Yes.
Thoughts?
I have a question, why is it our business? If the
CBA, sir.
Is
We-
CBA action or our
You
action?
want a copy of it to look at? I gave it to you last time, I didn't print it, so.
You get, whenever there's a petition before the ZBA, they request for feedback and input.
Oh, okay.
So that's all we're doing. We're not acting, we're
Okay.
just giving,
Yeah.
we're gonna send a letter to the ZBA, or
Right.
if, since the meeting
Same
is
here.
tomorrow night,
Okay.
we may do a verbal tonight.
Yeah, let's do a verbal tonight.
Can we do that, since you're right here?
No, he wants to send it to his.
Because I have to send it to the applicant and we have to send it to all the board members.
Alright, so we're gonna need.
But can I
to-
answer Mr. Anderson's question
What was the question?
about, is this, why does it come to you? In our bylaw, it requires that any time that a special permit variance or any kind of action comes before the ZBA, we have to get input from the planning board, the conservation commission, and the board of health. Because if we don't have anything, then when it comes to the meeting, then we have 35 days. So it's,
We provide you with a yay or nay, or we provide
we
you
just,
with comments?
just make it,
Whatever.
whatever you.
Whatever we want to say.
In the past, we kind of give the direction.
We give it to, we send it to the petitioner, he gets to read it, to see what, to see if there's any, questions or quarters about it. And, so, but it's a required
Yep, okay.
action.
So what I think we can do, since we don't have a draft to review,
No.
we can use our standard draft for a special permit that we've used in the past. And does anyone have any other special issues or concerns with this site and the use, the proposed home occupation?
There's no sign,
No, there's no sign,
okay,
it's less than 200 square feet, so he doesn't have to have a site plan review or anything.
right, so,
And it's gonna only be seasonal, so early spring to late fall.
so people just park in his driveway and
Yeah.
go to school.
Is there enough space in the driveway?
It's gonna be minimal, that's all it says.
As long as there's enough space in the driveway?
Yeah.
If they get a driveway.
Yeah,
line,
100 foot driveway, yes.
Oh, well, yeah, I think that. This,
You know
my-
where it is. You know
yeah,
where
last
it's at.
spring, it was the yard sales,
Yeah.
or last
So-
weekend,
so
or
you know.
whatever the town-wide yard sale was, I drove by. Spring to fall.
I also think we should encourage people to do this. I think people, if they have any reason,
They have a business already.
if they have a business already and they have any reason to think it'll be a hassle, they just don't do it. So I think that making this appear easy to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so do we have a motion to draft a letter for that, and I will sign it? You think you're gonna do it? It's gonna be tonight, so I figure I was gonna have to do it tonight.
Oh, good, yeah, then, yes, 100%. Yes, 100%, yeah.
That would be very much.
Is that, so do we have a motion and a second for that?
I will do motion to,
To draft a letter?
okay, motion for you to draft a letter,
On
sign it,
be specific.
and it will say that we encourage the approval of said request.
Encourage, yeah, this, yep, and encourage. All right, we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Melanie, it was for him to write.
Yeah, I know.
All right, review of correspondence and emails. All right. Well, this is just the legal notices, right?
Yeah, those are for you, those are the ones you like to do that.
I like it, yes.
Yes, I know.
And
You
the
like to do, okay.
correspondence and
The
the
junk
emails.
mail.
So the only correspondence we got was Goddard Consulting for Bethlehem Baptist. On behalf of the applicant Bethlehem Baptist Church, we request that.
No, that's, I gave you that.
Oh,
copy
that's
so
the
we
old
could
one from
figure,
July.
so we could
Oh,
figure out
right,
the
okay.
dates, which I figure on 10/25 is 79 days
Wait.
beyond that original 90, if I did it right.
Are we doing that one first?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that.
Or the beers one?
I don't know, just pull this one up.
All right, let's do that one first.
All right, so this is for the Bethlehem Baptist Church.
Did we
We
hear back from
continue.
them?
Well, we continued the hearing until, what date, November?
We accepted the application on May 10th. 90 days from that would have been August 7th. If you add another 90 days to that, it would expire on November 5th. So on 10/25, we're still within our limits because that's only 79 days. It's not the second 90 days.
10/25 is when our meeting is,
And that's 79 days.
so that's when we did the public hearing too.
Yes, we moved it to then because
Yes,
we wanted to
yeah, we
have
moved
it
it
over
to
a month
25th instead of the 11th.
to give them time. And
Did we ask them to re?
Yes,
Notify?
I did.
So
He
what
said
did they say?
understood. He wrote back and said understood.
Oh, great.
Oh, did you, that's you? I didn't see that, okay.
Now, whether or not he's going
Well, he's gonna turn the green cards,
Yeah.
so.
but
What we have to ask them for?
He
I
just
guess.
said-
Sure.
the one line, a one word, understood.
Good, good, all right, well then, that sounds good.
So that's.
All right,
within our
so
time.
we are gonna have to open and close the hearing on that date.
What?
Oh, because we don't
We
have
have
this
to, we
meeting.
have to act by November 5th.
Or get another extension from them.
Right.
But we're,
Actually, do we wanna just ask for another extension from them?
Just
Or
so,
do we wanna close the
Do they
hearing
need-
and deny it?
do they need?
aren't we doing, aren't we gonna be acting on the 25th?
On the 25th.
We're holding a public hearing.
yeah, but we never close them on this first, I mean, if,
Well, this guy, he's had 4 months to get everything addressed with the
oh,
VHB.
wait, yeah. What is waiting?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't
I was
seen
gonna
the
ask,
letter.
what is the problem? Why do they keep wanting extensions?
Don't know.
We're not doing
Oh,
that much. I mean, it's not a big deal.
It's, well, they're expanding the parking
They
further
are.
back.
Yeah,
And what I've heard, and that's what I thought they said, was that they're addressing concerns from our review engineer. I think their calculations for stormwater were done incorrectly,
oh,
so they have to make the basin bigger. Usually that's the problem. If they were making it smaller, they wouldn't do anything.
yeah.
I'm assuming that they have to make the basin bigger and
Fine.
possibly lose a couple of parking spaces or readjust some things. But we haven't gotten a report from VHB, we haven't gotten any responses from Goddard, so
Why don't we request an extension, just in case things don't, I mean,
can you?
How many times can we do that? Does
if
it make
they won't let us, then we have to close it.
What do you
I
want?
don't know.
Okay, well, I think what happens is, if we don't request an extension, our meeting, the meeting following the October 25th is after the time expires. So we need to either
Finish,
finish it up.
Finish it
Or
or
have
grant an extension at that time.
or deny, to
Or deny.
approve, deny, or extend it.
Well, they grant us the extension
They grant us the extension.
for the review time. He granted a 90-day extension,
Yeah.
so we can ask for another 60 days.
We don't have to act on it tonight, we can act on it.
We don't have to act on it at all, but I would like to request that so that we have.
So what are you gonna ask me to ask them, if they don't plan on showing up?
No, no, no.
No, if they do show up,
Even if
it
they
doesn't
do, if they do
close.
show up, and even if it does close, we haven't had time to draft the approval letter.
So we'll need an extension,
So we need at least.
regardless of whether we close the public hearing
Yes.
that night or not.
Unless you're gonna have it drafted and ready.
Clearly, I'm not, so we need the extension.
So we need at least a 30-day, and I'd rather just get one more for a month, just in case they have to clean
30
something
days?
up.
30 days?
but I'd like to get 60, because I'm assuming that there'll be one or two things that the.
I'd ask for another
Yeah,
ninety.
I guess fixed.
I would just call, ask for the 90, just in case they decide to extend it
Sure.
again or whatever they work,
True.
you know.
So I'll tell them we need that request by the
Holidays.
25th.
We need an extension
Right. You're
By-
gonna have to have the
by
church
the-
ready.
by,
Right.
for the public hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we can always, I mean, it's not a good thing, but we could always just deny it and have the letter be it's denied, and it could be done on the October 25th meeting.
I could draft that.
You could do that one.
You do the no letters?
The what?
You do the no's?
The notes, right, the notes are easy.
No.
You're fired.
I don't think it's gonna be any big deal. They'll, extending it, we're not slowing him down. He's.
Well, they're slowing themselves down.
Yes. And it, like you said, it's not a big deal. It's
Yeah.
just,
I mean, if you ask for the
I don't
extension,
know
we
why
finish
it's-
up that night anyhow, so it doesn't,
Right.
it's all good.
all right, so that was other correspondence. And then we got, what else is the first time we pile?
Nancy Lucier, about Andy Beardsley is having a round table on his property.
Yes, that one, we got a request from Nancy Lucy to attend the roundtable discussion. And the, the property is near where my house, kind of in the back. And I don't know whether I'm in a butter or in a butter to an abutter. I don't know if I hit it.
Everybody's in a butter to a
We're
butter,
eating
actually.
butter tuna butter.
It's within,
And then he told me, friends.
I think you're in a butter tuna butter.
well, I am, but you have to also
It's
be
like
within
butter.
100 feet.
300.
300 for you guys, or is it 100?
It's
I was,
300.
we're 100.
To be on the butter, they have to get within 300 feet of everybody. I thought that was the standard policy for everything.
No, zoning has 300, Conservation Commission and Planning Board have 100.
Really? Wow.
You have big crowds at your meetings.
The zoning's a big issue.
That's fine.
If you look at
I've
the town
always
website.
heard that 300 has always been the magic number, and I thought that that was for everything. You know, when they had asked for a butter, they had, 300 feet around.
No, because when you go to GIS on our town website,
Right.
it pulls up your abutters list, and it has a butter buffer,
That's fine.
What's going on at 19 Crescent? What's that property?
It's across the street from the
Like
municipal light.
Where the big house used to be.
Yes.
And what I've heard is it's putting in townhouses,
Yeah, he's been trying.
and I don't know how many or where, or whether it's gonna be a 40B or whether it's gonna be
It's more than 4.
How big
more
is
than
the
4,
farm?
so that means it triggers planning board involvement. That's it.
What happened
So,
to that
this
house
is a-
anyway? Nice old house. It just got abandoned and.
I think it just, no maintenance
Yeah.
for 100 years,
Bye.
Apparently.
for a long time.
Was it an old Victorian?
I
I don't think it was a Victorian, but it was a big thing up on the hill.
don't, it used to be I think the town clerk, there's history on it.
No.
The town clerk used to operate out of there, or,
Really?
Oh, really?
yeah, there was something about it.
Okay.
He's the town clerk or the town postmaster.
So it had some historical reference?
No, I don't know that, it had some historical stuff, but I don't know that it met the historical committee. That may be a good question to ask in this roundtable. But I
How
don't,
much to go?
We requested, I said that Mark should be the one, because I was told that DCR was one of the abutters, and I know that anything that.
Good, go ahead.
Anything that,
Vinny, you can't even come to that meeting,
anything that has to do with DCR, you usually, recuse yourself.
right?
but it's only.
But if you're,
Doesn't
if you're an
DCR,
abutter,
but-
then you have to recuse yourself too, right?
Well, either way, yeah, if it's DCR or if I'm an abutter, but either one.
If you recuse yourself twice, that means you're.
You're back in.
Yeah.
Is that like reverse and reverse?
Yes,
Forward?
yeah, it's a negative, negative, yeah.
But it's only a project roundtable, I don't think it's.
It is,
It's
it's not, and
not-
there's no decision, so.
That's transportation committee is that night, so.
I have a meeting at the library at 7, so I
And
can go
this is at
for a little
6.
bit.
That's a
Yeah,
Thursday
I
night?
Get out of work
Thursday,
on time.
Mark, you free that night?
Check,
Okay.
but probably, if I'm not here.
I can check on it.
So we'll have somebody there. So I think that makes
Yes, and brief, so,
Your Honor?
yeah, how was
We're talking about the round table for 19 Crescent.
Yeah. But in the short,
I have to, you know,
If I can go for a little bit, I'll go too, but you go and
okay.
you can join for a little bit.
all right.
I will.
Okay.
But
So
I can't do a tape it.
All right, so we'll contact Nancy and,
I'll tell them.
Either one, but-
and then the other correspondence, did you do that to everybody, the River Road thing?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So,
I know this,
Mark, you want to give a summary of last night's meeting with the town council?
Oh, goodness gracious, should I hand out the,
Oh, yeah, if you want to.
This is.
we can put this into the minutes. This is the handout that he gave.
For,
But you can-
there was a presentation by the town council, Sharon Everett and Jonathan Eichman, about public and private ways, how to deal with them, what to do, what liability the town has, and a whole lot of different questions that came up. Building inspector was there, the zoning ZBA was there, DPW director was there, there was a few selectmen.
Assessor was the.
Yeah, the assessment, which was good news, that was good to have her there. So it was a well-attended meeting.
And there was two hacks, there was public ways and private ways. I found one of the parts was interesting about public ways was how the state can change state public ways sort of however they want, you know, without our review, or they can tell us about it and things like that, but we don't really have to be in there. We get like a meeting.
They don't need
our
our approval.
But
They don't need our.
they don't need our approval. So that was the interesting part of public ways. They can close ways, they can give up state highways and let them be town roads. Anything else about public ways? Oh, I guess that's all about public ways. Then it was an interesting sort of revelation to me about private ways becoming public ways and how that's supposed to happen. And we do that, the planning board does that automatically with subdivisions. Like
When they're done.
well, we do it, we keep track of the road to make sure it's a road that the town would want, you know,
Constructed.
it's constructed right, it's bonded, to make sure that they finish it and all this kind of stuff. But then, the project kind of gets finished up, as far as the planning board is concerned, without the town taking the road and making it a public way. The board of selectmen have to ask us to do that review for them. I guess that's the way the law is written.
Okay.
The board of selectmen have to trigger us to approve, to inspect and approve the road, and then they actually accept the road.
They refer it, it's just like any other warrant article, they refer it to the planning board for reporting and recommendations.
So it sort of goes hand in hand with our site plan review, but it's not, our subdivision review, but it's not part of what we do. The board of selectmen are the acceptors of private to become public roads.
And luckily, we actually have it was written up probably 4 or 5 years ago. We have a good process of how to get a town road accepted, or a road accepted by town. So it spells it all out, and I think that's gonna be happening pretty soon with New Circle down on Prescott Street. So they've been, I think it's almost built out, so I'm expecting that before the snow flies, we're gonna get a panic, oh yeah, we gotta pave it, and we want the town to accept this road in the springtime. I think we'll wait till
And he
the
wants to
fall.
bond back and other things like that.
Yeah, he's gonna want to reduce the bond, because we're holding money so that if it doesn't do the work, we
You can finish it.
But he used to plow in the winter.
this
Right
winter.
now?
Yeah, this winter we
Right
will.
now, well, it's a private road. What else we do?
Is it Angel Brook on the hillside, public or private?
Private, with no intentions of ever becoming public. When they built it, it was, that's what they said. Private road, they maintain and take care of.
An interesting, I actually brought up the question about things like Terrace, which is a 40B project. So it wasn't, the road wasn't constructed under our normal road bonding acceptance, criteria. So, but if they wanted that to be a public way, they would come to, the board of selectmen could say, okay, trigger us to go do our inspection of the road, and we have no budget or anything to do that inspection with, you know?
It goes same to the 92 north, right?
Similar to that.
92 north.
Well, except that that's kind of like the driveway, but yeah, it could happen there too.
It's barely a road.
Yeah, barely.
Yeah, yeah.
But it, like that, but After Terrace is, it looks like a road, it looks
Yeah.
like it could be a town road, but it's not, it wasn't built as a town road.
We
And
don't know, it wasn't.
well, the design standard wasn't the same as the subdivision, they got waivers. So even if they're allowed, anyone's allowed to request the selectmen to accept town road. Then the selectmen refer to the planning board reviews it, comes back and says, oh yeah, everything was built, it's gone through the process of subdivision, everything's good, move forward. Or, yeah, we looked at it, it's got huge potholes, it's not built correctly, it doesn't have the right drainage, it doesn't have this, doesn't have that, we recommend not approving it. If the people who are living on that area decide they want to put it before town meeting vote, they're allowed to do that. But the planning board stands up at the beginning of the
Yeah.
warrant article and
Right.
says, we
Just as a review.
recommend disapproval. We could get outvoted and it could get accepted by the town and then the town has to pay for all the costs. But that's very unlikely.
The town can pay for the cost, and what the attorney said is you can assess a betterment to the people that live on the road as a way to try to recover.
To bring it up to town standards.
To bring
Well,
it right
it's
to
more to
the
bring-
process.
A betterment's supposed to, what they said was, a betterment is supposed to reflect the improvement in the value of their property by having a public road in front of them. So
Okay.
if that improvement in their value isn't enough to pay for the road, a betterment might seem unfair. Like, all right, you gotta pay a $20,000 per household betterment, and they'll be like, no way, that's too much, you know, or something like that. But, so there is a mechanism, you can do the betterment to pay for doing something to the road, but it has to be fair, be reasonable.
Right. Yeah. It wouldn't.
And so was, anything else on it? I thought it was a good meeting.
That was a conversion of private to public ways. There was, and then they started to get into, they did notice that we don't define lot in our zoning. I don't know if that's true.
I didn't look that up. So.
So we should.
We've never had a problem with any questioning of what a lot is. But
I'm surprised
there
because
is
we have a definition section in Wonderful.
I know we have a whole bunch of different definition sections, so
That's
and
right.
maybe it's one of them, but I don't know which.
Then they started talking about paper streets.
Yeah, he was waiting to get into that, he kept putting it off, and then he got
That was the
into
very
it.
end of it.
But it was just what you thought, the town,
But he said that the difficulty is figuring out the ownership. The paper street, what is it, there's by fee, and then there's,
if the property was sold by fee to the lots that are off that paper street, if those lots own, in the past, they could have owned all the way to the center
right,
of the road, or they could own up to the right-of-way line. So that it depends on how the deeds of those lots are written. And so that was one of the things that.
but then to try to recover or process a paper street, you have to dig into that title, deed, anything you can find to find the owner, to start assessing,
Then you have to try to notify the owner
notify them, assess,
to make an assessment of taxes.
of the property that they've been using that could be the paper road, you know?
And so
So it seems difficult.
it's a process, but luckily the assessor, I think she's only been on for a couple of years now, but she's noticed this, and there are, I think she said there's like 6 or so unknown ownership parcels. So she's started the process to research the title on those, so that we can then assess a tax on it. If it's unknown ownership, we find out who the most likely owner is, we send them a bill. If we don't get paid within 6 months or 8 months or a year, whatever the time frame is, we get no payment, we can then, as a town, do a tax taking for the property. And then we auction off that property.
Well, this is ours, that's not part of a procedure, can be a strategy.
That's right.
We brought it up as possibly
We
a
like
strategy.
the idea, right. And she was okay with it.
Yeah, right, no, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not like that's what the law says, you know?
Right.
I mean, this is our strategy.
Well, the law says that's the process.
Yeah,
That is the
we take
process.
the tax taking, and then we said, you auction it off, like, if it costs you some money to do the title search, you auction it off for the price of what you put into it, trying to find these people, or whatever.
Didn't they use Magnolia Road as an example?
Yeah, Magnolia Drive
Magnolia
between
Drive.
Steve's Pizza and.
Yeah. Well, that's
Gerardo's.
completely screwed up. that's a driveway to a property in Worcester that goes through West Boylston.
There's unknown ownership.
I guess if I don't know. And it's a street that
It's an
Gerardo's is parking in.
Right. The streets by Gerardo's are all, well,
It's not a street.
Gerardo's owns the property that he's on. There's a street to his left between him and to the north of, from
Between
West
Steve's
Boylston
and
Seafood.
Gerardo's?
Yep.
Yep, between Steve's and Gerardo's and between West Boylston Seafood and Gerardo's.
Okay,
There are there's a 40-foot wide right-of-way going on each side of it.
okay.
He's now using it as parking and other things,
Steve.
Gerardo's,
Gerardo's.
and
Oh,
West
okay.
Boylston Seafood. And they came to us
Oh, no.
4 years ago.
Is it Magnolia is the one between
That's
Steve's and
Steve's.
Gerardo's,
Right.
but if you look at Steve's, and if you're in the parking lot of Steve's, there's an apartment building, kind of right behind.
Behind it, yeah.
That parking, the access to that building is behind Steve's, it comes down kind of the Gerardo's
Gerardo's.
parking.
Really?
Yeah.
Gerardo's exit.
So that's their driveway, but it's in West Boylston to the apartment building, which is in Worcester.
The driveway and the parking lot is in West Boylston. The apartment complex itself is in Worcester.
Yeah.
So they're
They don't have
not,
any parking on their property?
On whose
Well,
property?
they,
In
yes,
Worcester property? Oh, they do?
no, but the lot extends into West Boylston.
Right.
Yeah, right.
With the apartments.
I thought it was sort
And
of.
then the right-of-way is also. in
so
West
they're not
Boylston.
on a public street?
Correct.
They're parking on-
Their address is off Route 12. It's just Route 12 address.
So is there a sign for Magnolia Street?
They used to be, for a little while, there was just a little sign when he first put the
Yeah.
development in. But
But that's what
that's just
we're.
one of the properties that hopefully is gonna get straightened away. Because I know if it costs $2,000 to do the tax research, the title research,
There's a little further down.
Child
That's
research
easy.
on
on who owns the property right now.
That's on.
the property where the road is on top.
Well, there is no, right, but it's not a real road, that was just a driveway built for the, so
Yeah.
you have to find out who owns it to try to approach them to correct the problem.
Isn't it still, didn't they say something that it was still, when it was created, back whenever, that it was that person is the one that would be the actual owner of the property?
It could be, that's what I presented. I've seen the subdivision plans, because we looked into this when
Right.
Gerardo's was here, and it does go back to a subdivision in the 50s, and I think 52 or so, and that owner never built the roads, never released the roads to the town, never released the right-of-way to the town, so the assumption is that he still owns it. Because the properties are the properties themselves, it's not, they don't go all the way to the center line of the road.
I guess that's the weird part.
KP Law did a training on this when we were over on Hartwell Street about 6-7 years ago.
That's when it started with,
You know, and that's, I can't remember the woman's name, Jean,
McKnight.
maybe it was her. But she came and she was, she went through all this, and that was the specific topic, was paper streets. And they were talking about how, there was a development that was supposed to go there. They set up the streets like what you said,
Yep.
and it just never panned out. But the streets still had names. And so now, from what I understand, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but now they're trying to find out, they believe that those streets are still owned by the original owner that was starting that development. Is that,
That's a similar situation, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that.
Right, because I just saw on the town tax map, the property that between, I think it's the one between West Boylston Seafood and Gerardo's is called Calhoun.
That's an honor.
Yeah.
So instead of the subdivision, they built apartments on that property?
Which one?
The apartments by Steve's?
It was a Worcester project, yeah, it's apartments over there. But it was a Worcester permanent
But
project.
Steve's and Gerardo's, that whole thing, that was going to be where that subdivision was going to be. And then it never panned out, and then all of a sudden, all these other businesses came in and bought up the land.
Well, the subdivision actually goes from Woodland Street all the way down to the Worcester line.
Right,
So it's all those
right,
avenues.
all those. So anything that's in between there that's considered a paper street, that's
Between
between
Worcester Street and West Boylston
Oh,
Street.
really?
West Boylston Street's used to be called Electric Lane or something like that, electric gas, because that's where the trolley went and there was electricity on there.
Cool.
So some of the people who have property now on Route 12, their deed says Electric Ave.
Okay.
And so you gotta go back a ways to see a lot of that, but.
Oh, one of the things that they were talking about public ways, I guess, or private ways, is there's these two ways that you can talk about them. You can own to the center line, so that the properties on the sides own to the center line, or it's a separate piece of property that's the road and owned by somebody else completely. When the road is dismantled or it's not a road anymore, but discontinued, it goes back to the people that owned it before. So it could be the people that owned to the middle, or it could be that separate piece. But that was, I don't know, that was interesting to know that if they get rid of the road, you get the land back. I don't know what you do with it.
Right.
Land back.
And so, but that's kind of what we're hoping to have done up there. So there was a lot of discussion on that, and that kind of, all that is a lead into, we got the email from Nancy this year. Yep. Asking or kind of reviewing the status on the River Road closure.
The last I knew it was not permanently closed, right?
It is not permanently closed.
It's open because it's allowed, it's open for 1 day a year.
Yes,
And
Apparently there's
that's,
two rules like
that's still true?
yes, that's the current situation. And there was a question when, because this kind of came up, how do we do it? Well, usually it's when they have plowed snow in front of the gate, and then they open the gate behind the plowed snow. So it's open, but it's not really accessible, because you don't really want to drive in there anyway, because it's lots of ruts. If you've ridden your bike or walked in there, it's great for riding bike or walking, but there's a lot of ruts. I drove down there a month ago and I got 2 flat tires, coming down the hill from Holden.
On your bike?
Yeah,
Because they have a Jersey barrier at the top, right?
I think they have a Jersey barrier, yeah, there's a couple of them up there.
And it turns real wide into the highway, and they got a barrier.
Yes, because when they did I-190, they made that for future expansion of the road. So it's wide open, but it's a situation where the numbers here show that it would cost the town $1.5 million to repair the road to make it passable again.
So are we looking at permanently closing the road?
Nope.
Abandoning the road?
Well, we're not really looking at doing anything. This issue just came up and we wanted to see how it ended. And Nancy did some great research in a couple hours, and it was really good. And basically, we came up with the fact that we don't know the reasons and all the closing, the basis behind the closure. And there's interest, I know in the Open Space Committee, we've talked about having a circular park. So you have River Road, you have the rail trail going up one side, you go along River Road in Holden, and then you come back River Road in West Boylston. So you could have a whole loop. And so we would do that. So it would be abandoned as a public road for vehicular access, but the improvements for a trail would be a lot less.
This is what was interesting about the question about if you discontinue the road. If when you do that, it goes back to the original owners, or the people beside it, then it wouldn't be the towns anymore. Or we don't know. I guess that was the problem. We don't know.
Well, who owns the DCR?
That was DCR is the abutter.
DCR is the abutter, but we got the property. What Nancy found in her records were that when it was a county road, and when the county dissolved, that property was deeded, 41 acres was deeded to the town. So it's town.
Okay,
town
so they did it.
41 acres that's comprised of the road.
The road.
They're narrow 41 acres.
Right.
Yeah, it's 40 foot wide by,
Yeah.
so it goes across, so we have that,
Oh, good.
but the issue is there was discontinuance and then discontinuance of maintenance, which is a different way of stopping that.
Okay.
So it's a lot of legal stuff. It was kind of interesting. But
Actually, if
a
you
lot
want to
of
look at
things
that
came
handout,
together.
it kind of,
Yeah.
well, the color, it talks about a little bit of that.
So there's possibilities to change the condition of the road so that it just becomes like the rail trail. You don't have to spend $1.5 million on it. You can spend $30,000.
To make it more suitable for walking
Bikes, walking.
and maintain it.
And people can still then use it for walking their dogs and doing all the things that you're not allowed to do on the DCR property. That's a long dog park.
I've done that loop.
Yeah.
A question. I read that today, and one of the things that kind of caught my interest was, it says that back in 2010, of course, your name is all over the place,
Especially on the flyer.
It says that the Board of Selectmen requested that the planning board hold a public hearing. And so I kept reading and reading, and I never saw anything that, do you remember, did you guys ever hold?
Right, no, we didn't hold, and that was what was found in here. We didn't hold a public hearing because we didn't have the background information. We asked for more information relative to why the closure was needed, what we planned on doing with the property if it got closed. Were we gonna give it to the DCR? Are we gonna keep it as a separate property? Are we gonna, and it raised the question of the park again, that linear park. Are we gonna turn it into another rail trail type of thing? And we wanted to get those questions answered by the selectmen, so we asked the selectmen questions and never heard any response. We asked for the transportation committee to have some information, and the minutes indicate that they talked about it once or twice, but never really followed through on anything. And so the planning board never got information to hold a public hearing.
So now, if whatever the town decides to do with that property, you would have to hold a public hearing.
This again it's another town meeting warrant article. The action is not the planning board's. Planning board would hold a public hearing to get feedback.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
And then we would make a recommendation to
Right,
town
right.
meeting.
but there would have to be a public hearing to let people know what the intent of,
When any change is planned,
Right, okay.
they would have to do that, yes.
that you're not gonna close the road permanently, that
Correct, we're gonna keep on doing what we're doing right
it's
now.
just not gonna be for vehicles. It's just gonna be a walking.
Well, it's
path.
available for emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicles have a key to get through the gate, and they can get in and get access, but it would do a job on the vehicles if they went fast. It can go slow, and it's really bumpy, but it is successful.
Was it another issue that there is no access, or there's nobody living up at the other?
There are no property owners that need access on the property,
Which is,
other than DCR, and they have a key to their own gate.
and wasting it around the property.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no paper streets off that road?
Oh,
No, serious.
Yeah, Jordan's is parking.
Yeah, I appreciate
No, it was an old county road, and there was no, the DCR acquired, I'd say, 90 to 95% of everything that's off that road.
I think I looked at the aerial maps, it looked like there was clearing a road with a cul-de-sac, but it was. maybe this is-
There's an access further up, but that's in Holden. There's one in Holden on the other side of 190,
Okay.
which is why that road is stopped where it is. That person has
Is it open until that point?
up to 190.
Oh, it is, okay.
So you go to the dump in Holden, the old landfill in Holden,
Oh, it's.
and then you can go another 100 yards or
Yeah,
so.
okay.
And that's it. And if you're walking, you can take, there's a nice trail that goes right through the woods down there. You don't have to walk all the way around River Street, which is not, there's not 5 cars that pass you anyway, so it's not a bad walk.
Right, right.
So it's nice. It's a nice little loop.
It is.
All right. Any other correspondence that we didn't cover there?
So, we're gonna do anything on that? I remember.
We don't have to do it, yeah.
There
It's
was
just
just
an update.
information.
We're gonna ask this.
Oh. No,
No,
one more
I
thing
don't
about
have
the
it.
meeting.
Okay.
One more thing about the meeting last night was about approval on required drawings and approving them when their frontage is on a public way. Really, there's 3 things that can be on a public way, I guess a subdivision, private way, and just a private way. And we have to, and the planning board gets a choice when it comes, well, when it's a public way, it's a public way, and they have frontage on a public way, that's good to go. The public way is gonna be a good road. Private way, subdivision, it's gonna be a good road because it was under control when it was built and all this kind of stuff, we can say it's okay. But if it's on the, frontage is on a private way, the planning board gets to make the call if that's a good adequate for access road. If it's all a pothole, dirt road, or whatever,
Because sometimes people will present that they live off of
something.
Old Davis Farm Road.
Sure.
And so that is like this cart path through the woods. So that would
We have
not
tons of
be-
frontage.
Right, right. And that would not meet the standard for us to sign off on an A&R. But they also talk about, has to have the frontage and access. And I think we're doing it correctly. I was hesitant at the meeting, I wasn't sure that we were, by the way they were talking, because they were saying how the road has to be in a certain standard. But it's a combination of the road, and from that road, the access onto the property has to be accessible.
From that road.
So if you've got property that fronts on a nice solid town road, but their frontage goes through some wetland, and it's all wetland all the way across.
So you couldn't really have access
I
to
mean,
that.
we would not sign the A&R there.
Right.
Or if it goes up through ledge, that they would have to show us that there is some way of getting them through that ledge. So that was the other kind of standard for A&Rs, but generally, we're doing the right thing.
Have you seen some of the roads in Worcester?
Yeah,
There's one in back of Trader Joe's there, you can't even drive through.
Oh, yeah.
Big, not paved, there's one out by the old Charter building
oh,
down there, it's just awful.
That's why we're getting, what do we call it? Curtis. Is that the road you're talking about?
Curtis Manufacturing is moving out because the roads and the
Really?
facilities were not good enough for
Oh,
this.
wow.
So now they're getting a great, have you seen that building? That building was
No.
beautiful.
They're doing turn down there?
Hartwell?
It's huge.
Yeah, 70 Hartwell, it's a beautiful job. The contractor's doing a good job, everything's working well.
I don't know how
They're moving in.
Worcester can get away with those roads.
Oh, my brother lives on a road that's horrific.
Yep, well, that's why we're not listening. It's a good rate.
Build a wall.
We may be confused, but we're not all about that.
They'll
I don't
pay-
think we can walk.
They'll pay for it.
All right, emails, correspondence, reports from other boards. Anything?
For me.
All right, citizen comments.
So, I don't know, affordable housing trust has met since the last meeting. Let's say no, we're good. Let's say.
All right, minutes.
Citizen
No,
comment.
citizens comments.
Just real quick. I've been out to the 40B project in 92 North Main Street, and I would recommend that everybody walk and look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I think that the people, once this is completely finished, I think the people in Oakdale are going to be very proud of what's been developed up there. I mean, it's just, I've gone through the whole complex with Mr. Ali, took me on a tour of the whole place. And I was up there yesterday to check on, to make sure how everything was going with the management company, and the lottery is on the 18th of October and stuff. But they did show me one of the models that they have.
Oh, the models are open?
Oh, I
Yeah.
haven't seen that.
They're open now, yeah.
2-bedroom, 2-bath. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It really is. I mean, it looks like, Mr. Ali went way out of his way to make sure that these things were built. I mean, wow.
Except for the heating, air conditioning units on the
Yeah.
deck.
Like I said, the only problem I had was the heat pump being on the deck. But other than that, everything else is just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, so
That's
I would
good.
recommend
Should
that
be
you
good
all
for the
go up
town.
there and look at it, because I think it's gonna be, like I said, once it's completely done, and people move in by next, hopefully by the end of the year, but by next spring, I think the people in Oakdale are gonna be very pleased.
Is he done with, I think there were a couple of parks or places?
No, those are the last things. Right now, he is, they're out on bid to get those developed.
And you said he's got an occupancy?
For building C, he has an occupancy.
That's the father's money.
That's the first one that was booked. That's the one that's, and then he'll get an occupancy for each building, so.
All right.
Like I said,
Sounds good.
look at it.
Wasn't there an issue with the house?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have any more information on that?
No, not yet.
Minutes, September 13th.
I don't have any adjustments.
Neither do I.
We have a
Motion
motion.
to approve September 13th.
Country heard from, good.
Second?
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.